Active FM. Radio has never been better.
What is up?
Hello.
This is the movie show.
On your favorite ORSPS.
I'm Sash.
My name is Ryan.
And today we are talking about The Hobbit.
Yes, and this is not the first time we've watched The Hobbit. So if you guys think like, dude, like seriously,
so
2013, 2012, 2013, 2014,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we've watched it.
And we watched it again.
And we won't be surprised if we already did a movie show, but we checked, we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in fact, the idea came up. Sashi was like, well, why don't we we'll bring our favorite Christian films and we talk about, our favorite. And then I asked her, does The Hobbit classify as a Christian movie?
Said yes.
To which she said yes, because the
author J.R. Tolkien was a Christian.
What happened?
He's not alive anymore.
Well,
he still is
a Christian.
Suppose he still is a Christian.
He's even more believer now than ever. He's like, hallelujah, I believe, I've seen. Yes. You can tell us stories.
True, very true.
Yeah.
But The Hobbit's not my favorite Christian film.
It's not?
Mm.
No.
Mm.
No, I'm sure there's lots of other favorite.
I have one in mind.
Well, go ahead, tell us.
Hacksaw Ridge.
That is a Christian film.
That is very.
Now, this is weird because The Hobbit, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, is the book is written, right? It's an author. The author is a writer by a Christian person, but acted out and all of that by a very like commercial, whatever, production and all that stuff. And there's even like stuff in there you're like, ew, okay. And then Hacksaw Ridge is a Christian story.
Yeah, based on a true life story of a Christian.
Yes.
Directed by Mel Gibson.
Acted by a heathen.
Andrew Garfield will be saved very soon.
I'm sure right now he's busy getting saved.
Yes, right now. Yeah,
Remember the
definitely.
silence.
Happy
He said
silence.
yes. He said yes.
Okay, so I've watched all three of the Hobbits because they decided to split the one book into 3 films. I've watched it now twice. Ryan, you've gotten?
So I have watched all 3. I remember. So this weekend, because we spoke about this on Friday, and we watched it over the weekend. So I said, well, if I watch one tonight, so it's been Friday night, and I watch one tomorrow night, and I watch one Sunday night.
Oh, so you watched all 3?
No.
Oh, okay.
But what I do remember is watching the third one in cinema. In fact, we watched it at high frame rate. I remember that because it was released in 48 frames, and you could see it, and it was in 3D. 3D 48 frames a second. And the third one is where the dragon like hits the town.
Yes.
And I was then, and this was literally me with my glasses. I'm going to do this because imagine me with my glasses on.
For those who cannot see Ryan's face right now,
Then go to
his
YouTube.
mouth is wide open.
Go check Active TV. Go look under the playlist. There are podcasts. I just did
an ad. Yeah.
Go now. Go!
Okay, but I have some slating to do.
So we're going to talk about the good stuff first, and then the bad stuff. We're going to talk about the bad stuff.
Well, I have bad stuff and I have good stuff.
Let's talk about bad stuff, and we end it on a more positive note.
There we go. So this is, I think, where everything that went wrong started. So they split the film into 3 films. Because it's one book, 3 films, right? Now, I think the reason they did this was because when The Hobbit was released, trilogies were a very big thing. So you had the Hunger Games trilogy, you had the Maze Runner trilogy. Everything was coming out in trilogies, right?
Lord of the Rings was like...
Well, no, Lord of the Rings was way back then.
Deal, because...
No. Lord of the Rings is different.
Yeah.
The reason, Alex, this is why.
Books.
So with the Lord of the Rings, there were 3 books. It was a book series. The Hobbit wasn't a book series. It was a standalone book. Obviously, that was the events before the Lord of the Rings. So the Hobbit leads into the Lord of the Rings, but the Hobbit in itself is one book. Now, this is where I think they went wrong. So if you look at the Fellowship of the Ring, which is the first book in the Lord of the Rings series, the book itself had 395 pages, right? And they made one film with 395 pages.
Sure.
Second book was The Two Towers. The Two Towers had 337 pages, right? And they made one film. The third book, The Return of the King, had 293 pages, and they made one film, right? The Hobbit, so the guy who actually did this comparison, he said the version of The Hobbit that he has actually has a larger print than normal. So it's 311 pages. The entire book is 311 pages with larger print. And the Lord of the Rings print, I have a copy. It's very, very, very small. But a 311 page book, they split into 3 movies.
So did they like really source it out?
No, this is the problem. So because they did that, they went and added a whole lot of stuff that wasn't true to the book. And the reason I think they added it was because they had now gone and split it into 3 films. Because originally it was only supposed to actually be 2 films. And I think it would have worked better if they stuck to 2 films. So what they wanted to do was in the first film, you'd have all of the events that took place prior to them getting to the mountain. And then the second film would be obviously the Battle of the 5 Armies, all of that, right? But because most people say because it was a money-making thing, it was a cash grab, that they went and made 3 films instead of 1 or 2. And this, I actually laughed when I watched this review. Someone was like, the whole movie is about don't be greedy. Like Thorin got greedy and then look what happened. But then they were like, but then the director, Peter Jackson, went and got greedy and decided to make it into 3 films instead of 1 film because he wanted to make money. And now we have The Hobbit.
I enjoyed the films.
Okay, can I be honest? So I watched the Lord of the Rings films before I read the books, and I loved the films so much that I went and read the books. The films is actually what introduced me to the books. Then after reading the Lord of the Rings, we went on holiday to Stellenbosch, which is in the beautiful city of Cape Town, and we were just shopping, and I happened to walk into a bookstore and literally found The Hobbit, and I knew The Hobbit was the prequel, and I was like, oh my goodness, it was the last copy. I bought it. I was so happy. Read The Hobbit without the films, like they hadn't yet announced that the films were being made. Then when they announced it, now I was obviously in my element because I'd read the book and now they're making the movie, and you're like, ah! And I love Peter Jackson as a director. I really do. Like, for me, he was the first director that really stood out for me, like growing up. So when I heard they were making it, I was so excited. I followed the production. Like the one thing they did that was so cool with this was they did like these like 20-minute episodes of like behind the scenes production. They would like release them every now and again. I still remember, I think I subscribed to an email, and then they would alert me every time a new video was released. So I was like in my element. I was following the film before like it was in cinemas.
Did they release them, like, was it that what happened that?
Well, it depended on like what they were doing.
It wasn't weekly. It wasn't.
No, it wasn't weekly. So a lot of it was filming, but then eventually it would move into like the music making and stuff, because obviously as they moved into post-production, they then did more like post-production type of things.
I was watching one of the episodes, and I could see the amount of work that went into the editing. So I was like, this is a lot of work for like very recent filming. So that was pretty cool. So I was a big fan. I went and watched them in cinemas. I was huge. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I really looked forward, and at the time I didn't feel disappointed. I can honestly say that I wasn't like, oh, but watching it now and then having gone to do research, I must be honest, I don't think I completely agree with the decision that was made for the 3 films. And Peter Jackson said the reason that he chose to do that was so that he could do a lot more character developments, but I disagree. There wasn't a lot of character developments in this film. I will show you an example. Ryan, name the dwarves. Yeah, there were some weird names.
You name 2.
Don't
look at your notes. Don't look at your notes, right?
I cannot name any of them.
Exactly. How can you go and watch 3 films and not remember any of the dwarves' names?
Because
No, it's not you. It's not you. That's a problem in storytelling. The fact that none of the characters like stood out, like,
and there's a problem. And I saw in one of those production film sequence little clip thingamajiggies that even he was confused with the names.
Exactly.
He was like, okay, we need to see it, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh my goodness, these
There's
names.
So many. But you see, in the book there was good character development, so that wasn't a book thing. The book is
same names
good.
as the book, right?
Same names as the book, but they didn't do character development. So the 3 films for me, honestly, was a money-making scheme. Like, I don't think they did it for character development. They said they did it for character development. I think they should have stuck to 1 film. The 2 could have worked. I think if they did the 2, it could have worked. But I don't think. And the reason I'm saying that is because for me, out of the 3, my favorite was the first film. And the first film was that they stuck very closely to the book. I would say out of the 3, the first one was the most like the book.
Where do you think they would have cut it? They could have cut the 3, because like if I look at where they cut it now, obviously it was put together because they had aimed to cut them at those specific parts. The first one was cut where they literally, I think it's like they get the first view of this, their home, the
Erebor,
yeah, that one. And then the second one, the dragon's released. So it's like, oh no. But if they cut the 3 into 2, where do you think would be a really great place to?
I think, you see, this is the problem with what they did. So they added, I'll list the characters they added that weren't.
So they weren't in the book.
They weren't. So, okay, let me give you an example. So first example, Azok, right? Who was the orc, the defiler, who was the main antagonist, right?
The guy with one arm.
Yes. He never made an appearance in the book. He was mentioned because he did kill Thorin's grandfather, but he died before the Hobbit actually took place. So he was not alive for the Hobbit.
So did he really die in that first battle?
Yes. So he wasn't supposed to be in the Hobbit. Now think how
I knew
many
it.
scenes he was in. So first of all, they could have cut all of his scenes out because they didn't need to have his scenes in. Because the book, the main villain was Smaug. That's who the main villain was. The dragon.
The dragon, right?
That was the main villain. I mean, hello? Like, what is the whole point of the story of the Hobbit? It's for them to go and reclaim their homeland, which has been stolen by a dragon. Do you get what I'm saying? So Azok, number 1.
Is that what the book's focused like?
Yes.
So there was none of that other evil.
No.
No,
They added all of that.
For
no.
real?
The I am fire, I'm death. Smaug says that.
But that's him. Yes,
That's
yes,
Smaug,
yes,
yeah.
yes. But
So-
there's that whole castle
yes,
that was
Dolgor,
abandoned. What?
Not in the book.
You know, and I was still looking. I'm like, what is the point of these guys?
Exactly.
Because you know, when we ended the second film that I watched now. I could see that the orcs, right? It's the orcs, right? Those scary things,
Yes.
right?
Orcs and goblins.
Yes, the orcs and the goblins. That's when the sword lights up.
Yes.
And I noticed there was this resistance. They didn't want the orc prince, whatever. No, not the orc, the dwarf, the prince dude, to actually get
To the mountain.
That's what I was getting.
Yeah.
And I was the one. I'm like, why? Why
Yeah.
don't they want to? So now, okay. So that whole thing's not. And it would have been better with because I didn't like those guys. And
Exactly.
besides, they were.
And for me, honestly, Azok's. When you remember the orcs from the Lord of the Rings, like. It was special effects makeup that was brilliant. For me, Azok was a very CG character. Like, I remember seeing him and thinking,
Yeah,
did they finish?
He's got that bit of a smooth.
Yeah, like he just.
Even though he's got the ruggedness, the cuts and stuff.
He doesn't actually look that scary.
There's this.
He's not that scary. I'm sorry, he's
Yeah.
not that scary. Compared to the orcs from the original Lord of the Rings.
The other guy that took over the quest of killing the dwarfs. Because remember at some point.
Bolg. I think his name was Bolg.
He looked more scary
Yeah, he
than the other
did.
guy.
Yeah.
He had this
which-
half collapsing face.
So like, yeah. Then
Oh,
the
man.
second person was Radagast the Brown, who was the other wizard. So he actually is mentioned
Wasn't
in the
he
book.
evil in one of the Lord of the Rings? Like he turned or something like that?
That's Saruman.
Oh, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking about.
Saruman wasn't in the Hobbit either.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I saw him, I'm like, wait, doesn't this guy, but that's Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So Radagast was mentioned but doesn't appear in the book. Look, Radagast I personally didn't have a big issue with. Like I actually enjoyed his character and they could have added him in without like he wasn't in a lot. Do you understand what I'm saying? So like for me, I don't have too big of an issue.
Yeah.
Like for me, Azog should not have been in.
He didn't do anything great.
Yeah,
Am I right? He was there,
that's the
but he
thing
wasn't.
also because he was with the whole Dol Gondor thing. So like, if they removed that, they could have removed Radagast. Then also, Legolas was not in The Hobbit. His father was in The Hobbit.
He was mentioned though.
He was mentioned,
Yeah.
but he wasn't in The Hobbit. So I think they brought him back because they were like, oh, Orlando Bloom, let's make some money.
But we have to pay him.
But then they were, yeah, okay. So he wasn't in. Tariel, the female shelf, not shelf, the
she-elf.
the she-elf, the shelf. She was not in the book at all. They completely made her up. The romance with Keely,
I did find
not
it
in the
strange.
book.
I'm like, they just locked these guys up, and there she is, and she's wanting to
Falling in
visit.
love with the dwarf.
Exactly. I'm like, what the hell's going
And
on
my
here?
sister was really against that romance. She was just like, no. But like for me, she was cool, but she wasn't necessary.
I like the fact that she pursued the dwarfs, and she even rescued them at one point. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
In fact, she healed.
Yeah, but was the romance necessary?
Well, she healed the guy.
Was it necessary?
She loved him.
Was the romance
He was in
necessary?
pain and agony.
Also, so the scene, you know, the scene where they're leaving the elf kingdom in the barrels, and then they're going down the river, and then
Yeah.
the orcs follow and attack them.
Yeah.
So that whole sequence happened in the book, but the orcs never attack them. So literally in the book, it's just they went down the river. Now, that scene in itself, it was quite a cool scene with the whole like fighting and the barrels and all of that. But like see, what they did was they had to add all of this stuff because they were making 3 films. If they weren't making 3 films, they wouldn't have had to add. And I must be honest, by the time we got to the last film, you were kind of like, okay, like, let's move it along now, people. Like, what is happening? I don't understand. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, they had to drag all of it out because they'd made it into 3 films. So, like, it just... Yeah, it was like, I don't think they should have done. The book was good. The book was brilliant. Stick to the book. There's a reason that the book is the book. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
do we have to go and add all of this stuff to? Yeah. So I don't think they should have gone and done what they did. I don't think they should have made it 3 films. And also, this just adds to the whole thing on the fact that they didn't build up the characters, especially of the dwarves, because the whole point of The Hobbit is the company of dwarves with Bilbo and Gandalf. Like that was the main focus of the book. And I don't know if you're like this, Ryan, but for me, when I think of Lord of the Rings, I immediately think of Legolas and Gimli, who was the dwarf and the elf. And they hated one another, but eventually they were best friends, and the character development that they just pulled on those two. Then you had the hobbits. I remember there was Frodo, Pippin, and I think the other one's name was Merry. But I mean, I haven't watched Lord of the Rings. I want to watch it. I actually want to do like a marathon, but I haven't watched it in years. But I remember these characters. Why? Because the character development was so good. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas now with The Hobbit, you're like, okay, name characters from The Hobbit. You Bilbo, Gandalf.
Smog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else?
Smog.
Thorin. He was probably the most known.
Gollum.
I know Keely because like that the whole romance. But you get what I'm saying? Like the character development was not good. So for me, like the whole 3 films thing, they shouldn't have done it. Like that. Yeah, I don't think they should have done it. But yeah, that was my negative point. Was just the fact that they went into 3 films and then they added unnecessary things that didn't need to be there. But what I loved about
I think it would have been cool without those. Now that you mentioned it.
right?
Do you think it just created more resistance?
No, it didn't. Even though
if it was like,
it created confusion.
although in the book the orcs were still hunting them,
In the book, I definitely remember the 3 trolls that turned to stone.
I like
that
those
definitely
guys.
happened. The Goblin King that still sang.
Yeah.
He was there. And obviously that's how Bilbo found Smeagol, which is how he found the ring. I loved that scene. That scene was brilliant. And it brought back so many memories from reading the book. I must be honest, out of all 3 films, the first film I loved because I kept remembering the book. Like I was like, that was from the book. Like the riddles and everything. That was done so well.
Play the games together.
That was so like I thoroughly enjoyed that. And you see, it was the book. Like it reminded me of the book. So that was pretty cool.
I wonder what the writer thought when they watched the film and saw the other stuff.
Well, J.R. Tolkien died already.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have seen Yeah, unless he was up in heaven watching The
Yeah,
Hobbit.
Of course he
But
did.
they
That's
didn't
what
need
I'm
to do
saying.
it. They did not need to.
Okay, wait. So, how long ago did this author die?
I actually don't know when J.L. Tolkien
No wonder
passed
why-
away.
I'm looking at the whole cast and crew here, and I see his photo. He's the only one that's in black and white.
No, but he
I'm like,
fought
couldn't
in the Second World War.
Couldn't they get a recent picture of the guy? Like, what's wrong with this guy? How much disrespect for this guy? Who is this guy? Oh, that's the author. Oh.
Oh no, he fought in the Second World War, so he was alive with C.S. Lewis. In fact, him and C.S. Lewis, who was the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, were in a book club together. Yeah, and then they'd bounce off ideas.
So obviously this guy wrote Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
right?
So, but he wrote The Hobbit and he wrote Lord of the Rings.
So what do you think his whole ideology around this thing and
Christianity.
yeah,
Well, you can see like the darkness and the lights having to
is
fight.
the dragon evil?
Yeah, the dragon was evil.
Because there was something that really stuck out for me when he was talking to Bilbo.
Bilbo, yeah.
When he said his grandfather, the gold,
sickness.
and that corrupted his heart, and I see the same. I'm like, oh, wait, is the dragon good? Because like maybe he's like he's like maybe stopping this guy from whatever being. Anyway, that was a single thought, and at the end he's like, I am fire, I am death. I'm like, never mind.
Never mind, it's definitely not good.
Scratch that out.
Yeah, no. But I think it was just showing how like greed can turn you into a
Because
horror.
that's what happened.
That's literally the dragon sickness is basically greed. Okay, this is the only thing that I liked about the 3 films. The fact that it was 3 films was the 3 end credit songs. I loved
What was the first one?
So the first one is the Song of the Lonely Mountain, and it was composed by Stefan Gallagher and Neil Finn.
Yeah.
Really loved it. Really, really loved it. The second one, loved the song, is I See Fire,
never
composed and performed by Ed Sheeran.
I think that song for me really stuck. I think that's when I really started noticing Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
For
yes.
me.
Too. I loved, and he played all of the I love it. That you can actually go watch. He like
was that
he
song
meets Peter
written
Jackson.
for?
Yes.
Because I know Ed Sheeran, like he's a love song dude, you know, and he writes love song, and he has this song, and it sounds very like Hobbity.
Yeah.
So I was
because
like,
he even mentions the Lonely Mountain.
Exactly.
And and then the third one is The Last Goodbye, composed by Billy Boyd, and I actually really like it as well. This one is a lot different to the first 2, but it's I actually love. I went on my Apple Music and I saved all of them, and I've been listening to them.
played them in a loop.
That's the only thing the good thing that came out of the 3 films was the fact that we got 3 end credit songs that are really good. The other thing I really loved was Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins. He was perfect. Like in every way, he just played the character so well.
I loved his conversation with the dragon completely. No. Well, actually, you know, just the way that he played it, and it was the same type of thing that he did with Schmeagol, with Gollum. This is very.
See, those 2 pieces were very. They stuck to the book there. Those 2 pieces, I remember watching it and thinking they've done this very well, because this was literally the book. So whenever they stuck to the book, they did well. So they should have just like stuck to the book. But some people that almost played Bilbo Baggins. Number 1, Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter himself.
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
The other guy, Shia LaBeouf, I think I pronounced his name right. He's from Transformers. I know him from Transformers. The guy who was
Are you talking about the guy?
The first Transformers, the guy.
Yeah.
Him? Yeah. Definitely not.
Bumblebee's best friend.
Yes. Yes. Next, Eddie Redmayne. He was in Fantastic Beasts. He actually is a good actor, but I still think. So out of the whole list, I'm still going with Martin Freeman. Like for me, Martin Freeman was it. And then James McAvoy, you know him, Xavier. He was in Chronicles of Narnia as the Fawn.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then Tobey Maguire.
No. Maybe. No.
For me, Martin Freeman was the best. And in fact, Peter Jackson said that Martin Freeman was his first choice. However, Freeman was initially unable to accept the role due to scheduling conflicts with Sherlock, the series, who Benedict Cumberbatch is in Sherlock. It's the 2 of them as well. And Benedict
So
Cumberbatch...
it was an excuse.
No, but Benedict Cumberbatch plays Smaug.
Yes, I know.
Doctor Strange.
Yes, the voice, right?
Yes. And the 2 of them are in Sherlock as well. Yeah. So
they did it.
yeah, they both did it.
So the other guy didn't want to.
No, he originally couldn't because of scheduling conflicts, but then Peter Jackson reworked the entire shooting schedule for the trilogy to accommodate him, which I'm really, that Peter Jackson, good job. That was brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. The other thing I really enjoyed was Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug.
No, I didn't even know it was him.
Brilliant.
In credits, I saw his name. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Wait, where was he? Because I know I got all costumes and stuff, so I was like, wait, did I miss him?
Did I miss him? No. So obviously it was just his voice, but
good.
still, brilliant job. Andy Serkis as Gollum. It was brilliant.
Of course.
He was just... I think that was my favorite sequence in the whole trilogy was Bilbo and Gollum.
It's so well done.
It is.
You actually see Andy Serkis in Gollum.
Yes.
The expressions, the face, the
and
way
it was nice that they were
Mm.
able to redo it with more modern technology. Obviously, like Lord of the Rings, they did it, but like they really would have like perfected that whole motion capture thing.
They need to try it now with Blender 3.0. The new Blender version has just come out. Peter Jackson, just talk to your guys there at your company. They need to give it a try.
We need more Schmiegel.
And that's at that point, he's like, oh, yes, no, we got Blender. No, yeah, we're using it. It's
there
actually Schmiegel's
nice.
eyeballs. Because of we like the animation keyframing.
There we go.
It's good.
Very nice. And then, so the first film, that was my favorite out of the three of them, because also, so it reminded me so much of the book, but also some chapters, titles from the book were used in the dialogue. So A Merry Gathering, that was a chapter from The Hobbit. A chapter was called A Merry Gathering, and I think Gandalf said that. Also, Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire.
Yes.
That, when they said that, I was like, that's a chapter, which was really
that
cool.
That sounded well
yes.
when they said that. One of them said Out of the Frying Pan, and the other one was like...
And Into the Fire. And that's literally a chapter in the book. And then also Roast Mutton, which is also a chapter in the book.
One of those, what do they call them?
Trolls.
One of the trolls said that.
Trolls, yeah.
Roast mutton again.
Yeah. Which was really cool. And then just some piece of trivia. So there's so much trivia on it. I was just like, okay, overwhelmed with trivia. Actually, I have two for you. So the first one is the first roar we hear from Smaug is the first scene of Smaug's attack on Erebor. That's in the beginning of the first film. Yeah, this roar is actually a sound bite of the special effects director's 7-year-old daughter roaring. So the special effects, the sound directors, the special effects, not the sound, the special effects director. Their daughter, 7-year-old daughter, roared. And then they took her roar and manipulated and corrected it to sound like a dragon and was put into the movie.
I wonder how much she got paid.
I wonder if she got paid at all. I'm sure she would have been. Well, do you think if you are that 7-year-old, you need to ask for payment? They used your voice.
Here we go, my baby. Here's some candy. Who's that from? Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson.
Thank you. Do you think they even put her in the credits?
I'm sure they would.
I'm going to go look for her name. What is her name?
I don't know.
Who's the special effects director here? Let's go to the credits.
And look for your 7-year-old, well, at the time, 7-year-old daughter.
Find names, I'm telling you. Who watches the credits?
Go, Ryan. And while Ryan's looking for the name of this mysterious 7-year-old child. Second piece. So, in Lord of the Rings, there's Aragorn, who becomes the king at the end. Strider.
Lord of the Rings is a long time ago.
Okay, so for all those who are with me right now, Ryan, just work with me.
Yes.
So he was played by an actor whose name is Viggo Mortensen, and he actually declined to reprise his role as Aragorn, citing that Aragorn wasn't in the book. So he literally said, I'm not joining because Aragorn wasn't in the book. And he is briefly, though, alluded to at the end of the Battle of the Five Armies, where Legolas's father says to him, go find this ranger. His name is, he's known as Strider, but his name is Aragorn. Go find him. Yeah. But he actually refused, which I respect, because he was like, no, if you're going to make The Hobbit, stick to the book. Don't include me. And, we can't say the same for Orlando Bloom, because he was in the movies. But
he was there?
He was there, yeah.
Was there.
But I must be honest,
Can I tell you one of my favorite scenes?
Where he's running up the falling rocks No.
No. Running Up the Falling Rocks. Is this in the third one?
Right, yeah, right. It's very...
I had not watched I'd watched the third
Oh,
one a long time
yeah.
ago, so I'm getting there. I'm definitely gonna watch it. You know what? I was just looking, and then I was looking at the behind the scenes. Like, it's a huge production.
Yo.
It's huge.
No, it's crazy.
They were saying there's like over 100 and something vehicles that I mean, because they shot in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And whenever they travel, it's like 100 and something vehicles. There's like over 500 crew members. It's a huge. And the first video that I watched was now pre-production, and you can see they're like a day before the shoot, and it's like I remember the sequence with Gandalf and the dwarves when they gathered together at Bilbo's house.
Your bag end.
And the one thing that I knew before this film already, in fact, this makes me think, are you sure we didn't do a movie show on this? I remember the way that they shot it was they had to have two of those houses. One of them was slightly smaller so that when Gandalf, as the character, stood in it, that he looked bigger.
Wasn't it a green screen?
No, it was actually two different sets.
Oh.
Literally two different sets. And because if you look at it, the way that they make the hobbits look smaller, they use a lot of like perspective. So you see their clothing looks just that little bit thicker and a little bit bigger. And the way that they did it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then what they would have to do is that to put like Gandalf, which is a tall character, next to like a dwarf, which is a shorter character, they would have to use almost like a perspective type of thing. But what they would have to do is that they would put Gandalf in the one house, which is slightly smaller because then he's a bit bigger as a normal human being. And then the Hobbit would be in, and even the dwarfs were slightly smaller as well.
They were about the same size.
And then they would have to be in a house that's slightly smaller. And then whenever you saw the Hobbit and Gandalf together, it was literally two cameras. So they would shoot, let's say, the Hobbit handheld. And whatever that camera's doing, they got a robotic arm on the other camera in the other scene, and it's copying what the other shot's doing. And then in post, they would have to composite the two shots together. The other crazy thing was that when they go into what is it? Now we have to think of names. When they got caught by those is it an org goblet org? Those ugly the guy with the hanging thing. The goblins,
yeah.
Yes, the goblins, and they escaping, and there are hundreds of them now tackling.
That was also a cool sequence.
Now, if you understand CG and 3D, like, it's one thing to have a CG character within your scene, because you put them there, you remove, you just mask out, you use masks, and you just remove. But the interaction that they had with so many different characters, can you imagine when they had to design them? Like, each character had, like, if they put a placeholder there, they had to think about how thick it must be, when they interact, how they, like, it's a huge production. Like, everything had to be, so it was like I'm just like, oh my word, like, what the hell? Like,
no, it was crazy.
Wow.
It really was. It's an insane film. Like, it's so good. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. When I see one day before filming, I'm like, everybody must be like,
freaking out.
do I have everything that I think of? What if?
Yeah, well, then. The one thing I do love about both Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is the locations. And obviously it was set
very nice.
On
Middle Earth, eh?
Middle Earth,
wow.
But New Zealand. And just, it was so amazing. And they would fly to different places, and like, it was beautiful. Honestly, like, I think New Zealand was the perfect place for them to film it, being Peter Jackson's hometown. But you just look and you're just like, and the best thing about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit is when they start the journey and you see the band, or like the company of dwarves, or like the company of the Fellowship of the Ring, and then they all like walking in a line on a mountain, and those shots they're stunning.
Almost felt like in the second film, like I think Peter Jackson got some inspiration from Transformers. What's the director of Transformers?
Michael Bay.
Yes, Michael Bay, because I noticed he started getting these very like long shots, but at a point when there's something specifically happening.
For me, honestly, the first film I loved the first film. Like, the first, it was so good. The second film I did enjoy. The third film,
that's the one I've got to watch next. I remember watching in cinemas. I remember the first part was really great.
That, you know what I feel like they did? They fixed the problems too quickly.
Is
like
it?
yeah, like you got to a point and you're just like,
I must admit, you know that thing that I spoke about where film the first three like acts or the first
Well,
two
two acts,
acts,
yeah.
the first two acts feel a bit, and obviously that is introduction. I felt that with the first film. I
See,
sat there,
I
I'm like,
didn't.
I think I want to go to bed now, but wait, and then the third act kicked in, and I
Yeah.
was like, my kids watched. We actually watched it until late.
oh really?
My kids watched right to the
right
end,
through.
and you know, right at the end when the dragon's eye opened,
Yes.
both my kids jumped. So, but then the second film, no, from beginning to it was like, woo, go, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
I watched and Tim's actually mentioned it before, and I watched it, and I just laughed. So it's those how the Hobbit should have ended videos, right?
Oh, really? Eh?
So, you know, at the end of the first film, Bilbo comes out of the goblin tunnels and he's got the ring, and then
Yeah.
he puts it in his pocket, and Gandalf actually spots it, but he doesn't say anything, right, in the film. So what they did was, in the how it should have ended, you have Gandalf like, wait, what was that? And then like Bilbo's like, what was what? He's like, what is in your pocket? And then Bilbo's like, oh, that's funny, someone just asked me like that. Like, he's like, no, you're coming with me. And then like Gandalf drags like Bilbo, and then Thorin and then are like, where are you going? What are we supposed to do? He's like, just climb in a tree if you get into trouble or something. And then Gandalf hops onto an eagle with Bilbo, right?
Yeah.
Flies him all the way to Mordor.
And
This
throws-
is at the end of the first Hobbit film. So he's like, throw the ring in. And Bilbo's like, no, my precious. He's like, if you don't throw the ring in, I will throw you in with the ring. And then eventually Schmeagol jumps out of nowhere, grabs the ring, but ends up falling into Mordor, but all happily. And then literally like, that's it. That's like the end. Like no Lord of the Rings, like sorted right
ended
then,
right there.
Yeah, like that. Oh, and then I think the Hobbit then ends with Bilbo going to Smaug, but now obviously he can't use the ring because the ring has been destroyed, and he ends up they all getting chased by Smaug, and then Bilbo shouts out, Gandalf, I told you I'd need the ring. And then Smaug blows fire, and that's how they end up dying. So they literally like ended the Hobbit to that right there. It's like, you know, that could have like been a way easier solution.
There you go.
There we go. So if you're not interested in watching all three films, just go watch
Just
how it
watch
should have
that
ended.
one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the credits here. Did you know that the ADR recorder's name was Ryan?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice, Ryan.
Okay, I can't find out which special effects.
Yeah, they didn't. They just said the special effects director.
All I know is they're all from Weta Workshop.
Yeah, they would have been.
Weta Digital is huge.
Yeah,
So
and they worked a
So you
lot
said
with
the
them.
special effects director.
Special effects director, 7-year-old daughter, first raw you hear of Smaug. It is her. Yeah. That's pretty cool, though. It's a great accomplishment to have said,
Definitely.
I am a dragon. Roar. Yeah. But it was really cool. I actually want to go watch Lord of the Rings, and I think I'm going to enjoy it more than I did The Hobbit, just because of that character development and storyline. And yeah, I'm definitely going to go watch it.
I'm going to watch the third one. I'd like to read the book, but
You should give it a try. You never know. You might enjoy it. Yeah, but this has been the movie show right
on
here.
Active FM, your favorite ORSP. I know it's your favorite ORSP. Why? Because it's the
It's
best.
the best RRSPS. Yeah. So this is us signing out.
Until next week, we will hear. We won't hear from you then.
Yeah.
You'll hear us.
Comment down below.
And hit a comment and say hi.
Say hi.
And we might just, or if you put something interesting, we might just, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Peace.
Bye.